I think for the longest time, investors have had the belief that content is not investable. There is like technology platforms and content. I know Fred Wilson, for example, has said at one point he didn't invest in content, too expensive. The platform's a different matter. And yet it seems right now like content is hot again. You have a number of startups gaining investment. Is content back if it ever went away?
Well, I think it depends on how you look at content. And I think if you look at content as original content, original programming, it is actually a very hard category to invest in, and I think it remains a very hard category to invest in. But I think the way I would look at content is that on the internet, pretty much, most things are content. And as the internet has become more ubiquitous, there are now almost 3 billion people connected to the internet. Mobile has obviously played a huge role in that, and more categories, retail, media, travel, financial services, increasingly even education and healthcare have become more like content categories. But I think if you're looking to say producing an original piece of work, a game, a song, a TV show, a movie, an article, those are still all, I think, very, very tough businesses to invest in. I think they're easier today than they were even 2 years ago. And I believe that actually they become more interesting over the next 5 years. But I think, original content is still very much a hits-driven business. And, to make those businesses work, you need both incredible distribution scale, which is now available with 3 billion reach on mobile, and free distribution effectively through, app stores and Facebook and Twitter. So the distribution economics are different, but still, you need to be prepared to push a lot of content out to get one or two hits. Well, I think it's very hard to build an ad-supported business unless you have over 50 million monthly uniques. So, that is a big number to get to. I think a lot of the most successful content-related businesses in the last 5 years, whether you're looking at games, like Supercell or King, or even to a lesser extent Rovio, have been supported by transactions, in-app purchase or direct payments. So, money is changing hands. They're not ad-supported. If you look at businesses like, Spotify, if you look at iTunes, again, those are sort of either transaction-based or subscription-based businesses. And I think, the only, if you like, new businesses that have achieved big scale and have successfully become ad-supported are, businesses like YouTube, which now generates, billions in ad-supported, video ad-supported revenues, or some other businesses that are sort of more niche, but still command big audiences like Huffington Post, or very specific audiences like, a TechCrunch or an Engadget. So I think you can build an ad-supported business. It's not clear that you can build an ad-supported business that really monetizes at exceptional levels, that is ad-supported, unless you have exceptional scale, and exceptional scale is north of 50 million monthly uniques, I would say. I think one of the things that, people are still trying to wrap their arms around is the actual scale of the audience and the opportunity now. When we were valuing companies even 10 years ago, we were valuing companies for an audience of maybe 200, 300 million internet users. We're now valuing companies for an audience of 3 billion or more users with a pretty good, clear line of sight to the next few billion. So the total addressable market for companies today, be they in media, in retail, in financial services, in travel, is orders of magnitude 10x or more larger than they were 10 years ago. The ability also for these companies to monetize effectively is also orders of magnitude higher than it was even 3 years ago, when you didn't have mobile distribution platforms like iTunes or Google's App Store. And when you look at companies, like King, like Supercell, like Rovio, like Instagram, who have effectively grown massive scale overnight, both in terms of how many people they reach and the ability to monetize, there's a radical change in the scale of those businesses in real objective terms, both in terms of users, revenues, and profits compared to 3, 5, or 10 years ago. And I think we're seeing the same thing to be true in industry after industry. You look at travel and transportation. You look at the revenues that companies like Airbnb, Uber, Halo are generating. And these are all businesses that up until 2 or 3 years ago would not have had the reach or the built-in monetization capabilities that now exist. So I think, it's hard for our brains to catch up, but when you look very dispassionately at the real numbers behind some of these businesses, you see something extraordinary and very real.
And lastly, I guess, there was a time when mobile was the growth platform, the platform that was going to bring growth to the overall online industry. And certainly, I guess that's still the case to a large degree. But it feels like already we're looking at the next platforms beyond that, be it wearables, Facebook acquiring virtual reality headset. Is it important that we look beyond to the next platform and the growth opportunities that may come ahead?
As we discussed in the session earlier today, I'm still pretty boring on this subject. I believe we're still investing in the same underlying platform we were investing in 20 years ago, and probably for the next 20 years going forward, which is the internet and the IP stack. And what changes is that the ways that we access the web, which used to be the desktop, then it was the desktop and the phone, then it was the desktop, the phone, the tablets, and increasingly I think we're going to have screens in our house, screens everywhere connected to the internet. So and then there are other ways that we're going to experience or contribute to the internet. Wearables and sensors are contributing data to the internet, and they're going to be spat back at us in very, very interesting services, that we don't understand or know about today. Some are transportation related, some are health related. We don't know the applications for that. And then I think there's the augmentation layer, which Google obviously has invested in with Glass, and Facebook now seems to be investing in with Oculus. So I think all of these are sort of layers on top of the most fundamental platform, which is, who controls the way that we access and interact with the internet.